I and my friend Alexei Shatunov, we are drawing paintings here during the day, and during the evening I have opportunity to do some events. So today we have event with Vadim, and in the end of the event there's donation box, this white one on the table, so you could put some donation there if you like this event. But Vadim,
Yeah. So, hello everybody. With some of you we already know each other, with some we don't. But as we met all here today, this means that we have one common interest, and it's the interest for knowledge and for self-development. And today, I will try to do my best in sharing with you what I typically only speak and share with in a close angle with close friends. Because such topics are very personal, and it's quite, let's say, disturbing to share something very personal. But as I see the time has came to speak even about such sensitive topics as spiritual tripping more openly. So during today's presentation, I will try to give you, let's say, first of all, to share with you how I came to these conclusions, part of the knowledge, and at the end of all, I will share certain mythologies which you can use for yourself for development of your consciousness, or certain important things that you need to know if you want to do spiritual tripping. So, but before I start, let's start with a story. When I was small, once I heard a wonderful story about a person whose name was Solomon. He was a very sincere person who, with his service, he pleased God, he pleased life. And then God asked me, what do you want? Eternal life? Richness? Women? Tell me, anything you ask, you will get that. And Solomon looked at God and he said, I want wisdom. He says, oh, you're already a wise person, but for your demands, you will receive that. You'll be the wisest man ever lived in the whole human history. And God gave him wisdom. And in the beginning, I couldn't understand, why did he ask exactly for wisdom? But then it unfeels that no matter what you have, would you have people with who you work, would you have resources as money, or would you have information? All of these things won't bring you any practical results without the understanding how it works all together. Or put it simply, if you have the knowledge of understanding how everything works, you can make money, you can gather people, and you can make everything work. But if you don't have wisdom, all of these resources will have no usage to you. And this exactly story, that was one of the most inspiring stories when I was a small boy that I heard, which I would say became one of the corner rocks of my development. But now, I will share, as with some of you we know each other, with some not, I will just go step by step and share a little bit about myself and my, let's say, exactly spiritual path of development. So first of all, my name is Vadim. I work in 3 fields. One of them is tourism. I worked in this field for over, I think, almost 10 years. Parallel to it, I dedicated more than 400 travels around the world and trying to find different knowledge, information, and etc. The second field is called gaming. If any of you know such a company called Fox 3D, is the oldest working gaming company in Estonia. So I work with gaming technologies, assist to make games and use this game technologies. And of course, as my hobby in the last 8 years, I dedicated time to international affairs. So I represent the interests of Estonia and Russia, or I'm a public diplomat. But it's just a hobby, just sometimes I, right now, spend on it time. So, and these are all made for the public. But my true, let's say, passion, my true hobby, or let's say my true profession is, in the modern world is called neo-shamanism, or a neo-shaman. Raise your hand, who knows what means neo-shaman? Okay, very good, 3 people, that's a lot more, because 2 years ago nobody knew that. Shaman is the old traditional ethnical way let's say, of the person inside of the tribe or the social group who strives for knowledge and who takes upon himself responsibility for all people that surround him, for his community and everybody. Neo-shamanism, that means you take that ethnical role, but you put it into the new format. We already live not in the forest and tribes, we live in the city with new technologies, new knowledges. So neo-shamanism means following the same principle but adapting to the current world and reality. And what I want to share with you is literally my personal view, based on my personal experience. Each one of you has his own life, each one of you studied his own things. All what I decided to say is just to share sincerely how I think and what I have learned from the spiritual travels. But let's start. So in 2 words about the spiritual path. Literally there were 3 main phases. I call them like Christianity, mystic and shamanic. So how did it all start? Well, of course with love. This is a picture that I got today. This was actually the first girl that I fell in love. She used to go to the church, and exactly for this reason I fell in love with her, and she went to the church that motivated me to visit this church. And how fascinating it's not, no it is, that through that started my actively spiritual journey. Because the true fuel of spiritual development of any person are emotions. Any situation that brings out the emotions leads to development. And as I fell in love in Oksana, but she didn't love me back, as a young man I suffered inside and never shared my love for almost 3 years. But suffering, it brings development. Emotions brings development. And that was the first hardcore part through which everything started. So as she was going to the church, it was such an American, Protestant type of a church, very fun. Maybe you know, it used to be, the school used to be called, Sakala Gymnasium is currently it's called. It is located in the almost on the outskirts of the old city. Well, let's put it simply. At the age of 11, fell in love, started the path. Thanks to the church, I learned my first spiritual practice, and that is praying. What is praying? Praying is a ritual in which you focus. You focus your thoughts and your desires on what you want to be grateful for or what you want to unveil. And you remember the story about Solomon? Imagine, I was so childish, stupid, that for 3 years every day I prayed for wisdom. When I was doing that, I had no idea that asking for wisdom is asking for a lot of shit and problems in your life. But what you ask, that will be given to you. So literally the church was a very important part of my spiritual studies, as this helped me to understand the fundamentals, at least of the religious mindset. At the age of 17, I got consciously baptized. As for Christians in Christianity, baptism is the highest ritual that they have. This is the ritual where you just let go of everything and you dedicate your spirit and soul to the path of Jesus Christ. But after I baptized, you know what I understood? It's total crap. Because everybody sincerely says, oh, baptized, yes, that is the practice, that's what you don't know. When you do it, you're gonna feel. And when I did, I said, are you fucking kidding me? So yes, so afterwards I continued my studies. So this is already a picture from the Himalayas. I think I was 20 years back then. So after I finished to study Christianity, I went into more interesting studies, studying from mystics, Tibetan energy practices, on which show the development of the high consciousness and control over your body computer. Different mystics, starting from Carlos Castaneda. Raise your hand who knows Carlos Castaneda. Oh, good. Guys, I see a half dozen know. You have such an epic book that you don't know books. Different authors as Vadim Zeland, which speaks about control of your mind and how you can create your reality. And so step by step I studied different types of science, including what the special agencies, let's say, use and study. Because if you really want to understand better the world, you have to look for sources of information that is hidden from the normal people. And typically special agencies have it. Right now you can find a lot of materials on the internet, but back then that was so interesting. And of course, the vetting knowledge. At the age of 19, I became a vegetarian. I started eating meat, fish, and eggs, no alcohol, no garlic or onion. And back then, I was the only vegetarian in my whole school. There was not a single person a vegetarian back then. And everybody were like, are you fucking stupid? Well, practices. And this is a picture from one of the faraway temples called Yamunotri, from where starts the river Yamuna in India. And that is one of their holy people that lives there for over 30 years. But then, after studying all of the different types of knowledge, came the third path, or the third period. And that is, I call it the shamanic. And that knowledge that was unveiled, it still follows, and I still continue to unveil it. Because, you know, no matter what you study, to the end of all, you come to the fundament. And the fundament of all our cultures is the ethno-knowledge, which was always kept to which all of the cultures developed. And this is exactly shamanism. You could call them different names, druids, or other types, not depending on the culture, the names for those people. So, during this time I traveled a lot during the world. I participated in different rituals, starting from Native American Indians, Brazilians, Peru shamans, Mexican shamans. During this period of time, I literally tried many things consciously. Because the only way how you can study life, well, you have to play around with your biocomputer. And this knowledge, well, it unveiled such answers that not a single religion, not a single book, not a single theory could have opened. And this really took away my heart and my soul, because I finally found that eternal well of knowledge. So, as a result, let's go step by step. Oh, yeah, sorry, this is the final one. I was doing the presentation like late night. I had to make a picture from like Instagram, because Instagram doesn't allow you to save pictures. But this is actually, that was like the final such moment. It's a picture from the Himalayas. It was my second journey. And this is with my very close friend. He's from Sakhalin. Do you know where Sakhalin? Okay, that's good. You know, like Japan, and there are like some islands in Russia that Japanese say they're art. Well, my friend is from there. And so we met in India, in the Himalayas, and when we came to that place, it's called Manali. That was the first time in my life when I came on spot, because I'm a hardcore traveler. I came on spot, and that was it. It was for the first time in my life that I felt, I found the place. I found the answers. No more running, no more searching, no more striving. And for me, that day will still remain as something very special, very unforgettable. So, I understood that this would be important for you to explain a little bit the background, so you would know which information I studied. But now, let's start with the interesting part. Now, let's start with the talk about life. So tell me, chicken or egg? Raise your hand who thinks chicken is first. 1, 2, okay. Tell me, who thinks that egg was first? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. That's better. Guys, 10 other. What did you decide?
This is a manipulative question.
Oh, that's already a deep answer. But this is what actually life always tries to give us. If we look on life, what does the society tell us? It tells us, so what is more important, science or religion? What is more important, matter or information. And the thing is that who are better? Democrats? No, well, let's go bias. This is too American. Keskerakond, Reformerakond. But the thing is, yeah, we are always given this choice. This is good, this is bad. Or is it like this, like this? But what is the answer? The answer is exactly lies, as everybody who came here have already studied things. And this is correct. It's actually a manipulation. As actually, what I was asking you, it was a provocative question in which I gave you two answers. But actually, I was telling you, this is true and this is false. Or this is false, this is true. But the correct picture is I was giving you one lie, I gave you the second lie and told you to choose. But if you don't think about creating a third answer, you will adapt. And this is what means unconsciousness and manipulation of our consciousness. If nobody gives you the thought that there's a third thought, a person often doesn't acknowledge by himself. So what is then the correct answer about the chicken and the egg? And the principle is the principle of three, and it's called matter, information, and measure. What does it mean? Better to have a stick. So, as we know, everything around us first starts with our thoughts. First, when you get the thought, it creates a vibration around the world. And with this thought, step by step, life starts to bring you what you want. And that is called reality. And the key component is measurement. Measurement is that third part that nobody speaks about, nobody teaches about. Because measurement, that is the key of control. I'll give you an example. For example, when we say a person is rich, we can all agree on that because we know that person has 1 million, 2 million, 10 million, or 1 billion euros. But tell me, how can we say that this person loves so much the other person? Love, we don't have a measurement for that. Happiness, we don't have a measurement for that. Everything, what we cannot measure, we cannot control. And that is exactly the key component how we are manipulated. We don't understand by which measurements life happens around us. And this is exactly that. Everybody knows this symbol? Come on, assist me. How's it called? Okay. Where is it used? Where do you often see this symbol? Exactly. So what does it mean? First is knowledge, snake, information. The other one, literally matter. And you see in the center, this is the measurement by which you make. Only by measuring and studying, you can control the process. And medicine, it's all about control. But this is all esoteric symbolics, which in our current days, many have forgotten. So, why is the aspect of the triangle so profound? This is, for example, the things that most probably many have heard. This is the aspect of the, let's say, the pyramid of power. So, you know how the resources are divided in the world. If we imagine one pyramid, this is the pyramid of people. This is the pyramid of resources. So, the higher you go, the less people are who control the biggest amount of resources. How does it happen? The more higher you go, the more smarter you are. How we are controlled and manipulated through the whole history. The less you understand how life works, the more easier is to manipulate you. Say, oh, that Muslim, he's bringing the destruction, or this immigrant is doing that, or any other conflict. The more smarter the person is, the more access to the control of the resources it has. And all of our history, it's literally, let's take Europe. When did it start to change? We have the Dark Age. It started to change from about 15th century when they started to make first books. Information started to spread out. If before that, to make one book, a monk has to write for 3 months. Then after this, to make a book, it took 6 hours, and you have it. So steadily from the 16th century, information started to crumble down to the people. And that's why we, as normal people, started to get more benefits. We started to adapt. And what is right now literally happening, that this system is starting to fall down exactly of the internet and the informational share. And on this side, this is exactly the same symbol. So tell me with which country is the symbol connected? Israel. Yes. And, oh, thank you. And exactly the same thing. One is the pyramid of knowledge, the other one is the pyramid of power. This is why the triangle in this aspect is always skewed. But it's understood only when somebody shares with you exactly how the system of control works. So, a small example about knowledge and practical usage. So, tell me, in every country, it is controlled by 3 independent powers. Is that correct? Legislative, executive, judicial. I'll say it in Russian. Законодательная, исполнительная, судебная. So put it simply, every country they say, if you want to have your own country, you need to make your laws. You need somebody that will punish the people if they don't fulfill it, and somebody that would make the judgment. But in truth is, if you are a sincere person and you think that only by manipulating on these 3 powers you can make a change in your country, then you're stupid. You're uneducated. And you will never find out about it because the smart people don't want you to understand how it works. You can dedicate all your life in trying to change the law, when actually the answer it lies beyond that. So, 2 other powers, which usually they never speak about. Ideological. So, I'll give an example. Soviet Union, communism. So, we're in a communist mindset. We're creating the laws, the executive of the laws, and the judgment based on the communistic ideology. Now, you're born in America. You're a capitalist. You will make different laws. You will punish people in a different way, and you will follow them in a different way based on your ideology. So depending which ideology, that is more important than those 3 powers. But there's the 5th power, and that is the highest. And this is exactly what we're going to speak today about. And the 5th power, it's called conceptual power. So concept, I would reference it as perception. Is how you individually connect yourself with the world, how you connect this world to yourself. How you explain this inside of your mind, based on this you create your ideology, and all the rest. And this is exactly the power that they put it a taboo in the Western world. The aspect of trying to create your own connection with the world, your own concept. Maybe a small example of power in the history. So in the beginning we had Catholicism. Everybody remembers that? So at the 16th century, the Germans, the rich Germans said, guys, why? Because the Catholic Church was choosing who will be their king. They were choosing who won't be their king. They had churches all around Germany which were propaganda tools. They had churches through which they were gathering the money and the information. And the rich Germans said, that's it guys, we don't need you. And they made a new perception. They used Bible, but they made a different conception, which is called Protestant. As a result, in our days right now, I'll spin it up. Let's take Europe. Yeah, we're one, but we have actually 2 different conceptions. One is Protestant and one is Catholic. Tell me, which countries are the most richest countries in Europe?
Protestant.
Yes. Norway, Sweden, Finland, Estonia, we're catching up. Denmark, Germany. Now tell me the poorest countries in Europe with the biggest amount of financial problems.
Albania.
Oh, exactly. Orthodox and Catholic. These are the countries which have why? Different perception. Yeah? Protestant, I rely only on myself. This is my life, my connection with God. Catholic and Orthodox. Oh, brothers, please, Father, forgive me for my sin here. Somebody, will God forgive me? Different perception of that, different ideology of behavior, different mindset, and as a result, a whole different way of behavior of a whole country and a nation.
Albania is mainly Muslim.
What?
Albania is mainly Muslim.
Please, Muslim, in Europe only matters Protestant type. So, but now let's continue the discussion going into the topic of psychedelics and how is it all connected. So in every country around the world, there are certain plants which have inside of it psilocybin, or some kind of a plant which gives you the psychedelic experience. What is psychedelics, if to put it very simply? So our bodies is like a biocomputer. Psychedelics is like, you know, like an energy, I don't know, like boost. You put in and you get an energy boost for your brain. Your brain, it unveils, and through this, you see the world in an absolutely different perception. That perception that typically our mind doesn't allow us to see. So exactly based on the psychedelic plants, all this anthropological studies show cultures developed in different ways. I'll give you a funny fact. I won't say that either true or not, but did you know that in Estonia we had two Estonian languages? We had Northern Estonian, we had Southern Estonian. But now we speak only Northern. Why? Where did the old disappear? It happened because we started to read the Bible. The first Bible was translated into Northern Estonian. But for me it was fascinating how our small country has two languages. And then with time I discovered, and you can laugh, I won't say that it's the exact answer, but in North Estonia we have one type of mushrooms. In south part of Estonia we have different type of mushrooms. Mushrooms, psychedelics create a unique experience through which especially the spiritual leaders or got their experience. You use different psychedelics, you get a little bit different experience. But you stream that back, and what is a language? It's the story, it's the history, it's the experience. So yeah, so all cultures used to them for the development of the society, and usually this knowledge was always kept by specific leaders, called druids, shamans, priests, mages, alchemists, and etc. But the basic principle of it, it's exactly the study of life. So, if we speak about the current world, back then everybody could, in the society it was a typical norm, like it is right now in South part of America. It's a plant, it's a medicine, you study it, you need to clean your mind, you need to understand things. You go to the shaman, you make the spiritual circle, participate in the ritual, make a reset of your mind and your psychic, and you go to the next phase. Then in the Western world, we're the richest part of the whole human world. And yet, by being so free, so independent, we have one prohibition, that you and I won't be allowed to study our personal consciousness. Nobody will allow you to smoke weed, nobody will allow you to try mushrooms, try ayahuasca, to try other medicine plants that always existed in our human history. But why do they forbid that? Why do they don't allow that? You remember? I told you conception. Because when you start to study your brain, you start to make your own conclusions. You stop relying on what the media shares, what school gives you, what people say. When you have your own experience, that's it. You will never let it go. You will trust yourself more than you trust anything that will be shared around you. And this of course will lead into, let's say, the change of the distribution of the resources. At a certain point, when we're going to get enough smart, we'll take away the 90% of the resources that are kept from us as normal humans. So, and what is right now happening, why we can speak becomes even more easily accessible. Already like 10 years ago, almost nobody even knew what is psychedelics or had a spiritual trip. And right now, between my friends and etc., the amount of people is just like blooming. It's just like blooming. So changes are happening, and we're in the middle of these changes. So making a small wrap-up, that if you decide to follow your own path of development, society will tell you, don't do that. It's like a natural barrier, but happily, in our days, the freedom is more in our possession than we think. And actually, in our days, you can go to any part of the world, you can try anything that you want, you can study any information that you desire. And I believe we're getting our freedom back. So, a little bit so let's speak a little bit about the psychedelic experience. So, you know what's fun? Well, for me, this is an experience that many people take out when they do their first psychedelic journeys. This information was quite fascinating. This information is still kept in huge secrets by very developed old people who are very rich, who are very smart, and who think that nobody knows it. They keep this literally like this, as it's only accessible to very few. But luckily, life is more unlimited and everybody can experience that. So, what is the biggest secret in the human world? What understanding unveils psychedelics? Why the Western system fights this topic? Are you ready? But it will be a spoiler alert, okay? 1, 2, 3. Life is a game! This is unbelievable, yeah? This is what we always have heard. So, this is literally that big secret that they don't want to share. And they're afraid to share with the majority of the people. Because if you take in the concept that life is a game, like you're playing a computer game, then a person becomes a lot more bold. A person understands that if it's a game, it's my game. I'm a part of it, I can choose what I want. You remember, the more smarter you are, the more power you have. The more stupid you are, the weaker you have, the less, let's say, demand you have from the world. And this concept about the game, it opens up to everybody an opportunity to play and to enjoy this life. So, why is life a game? We can quote even one of the latest quotes. The chances are 1 of a billion that will live not in computer simulation. I think everybody, raise your hand, who heard this from Elon Musk? At least some of the people. So, this is the aspect that step by step they will speak about it more and more with every time. We're literally standing at this moment when such things with every year will become more and more popular and discussed. But let's take, why is life a game? We live in the most perfect game simulation that we can even imagine. So thanks that games develop, we can play now a game on computer and we can kind of compare what is life and what is a game. For example, 50 years ago, almost nobody played games. And it was so hard, especially in the old times for shamans, let's say druids, blah blah blah, to give an explanation. What is life? Now we say life is a game. Back then they said, it's like a dream. It's like an illusion. They used other terms, because that was those cultural terms that they used. But actually, all that they meant, that it's just a game. Every soul is a part of God and has the freedom of creation, but only very few use it consciously. Our bodies are perfect biocomputers through which plays the soul. So, I remember when I heard this story for the first time, it just fascinated me. So, you know who is Brahma in Hindu culture? Brahma is the first God creator. They say he unites Vishnu and Shiva, or say he is like the top God. So God said, man, I'm bored, I want to do something. So he approached a beautiful girl. She was a dancer, in the streets. Her name was Maya. She was a sorceress, and he approached her and said, Maya, I have heard that you can bring unbelievable pleasure, interest, and enjoyment to any man that approaches you or to any god. And she looked at him and said, are you sure you want to have it? He said, yes, I'm bored. I want something new. I want something that was fun. She said, okay, lay down. And at this moment, she put Brahma into sleep and divided his consciousness into millions and millions of parts, giving every part of the consciousness its own dream. And so they say that Brahma sleeps until today in the dream that Maya has created for him, until the moment that the one consciousness of Brahma will awake. And from all the things that I have studied, really guys, this creates for me a lot more logic than many other things that I have studied. So, we can easily imagine that these bodies is like in the computer characters. Our souls are like the gamers that is sitting next to the computer that came here. This is your body, this is your game, and you decide now for yourself what you want to do and how you desire to play it. But the core element in our bodies is the brain. As the brain is is the main operational system that creates everything. Just think, anything what you have experienced, anything you have seen, heard, felt, thought, everything in this, your whole life, was just created by this. Only by this. Your brain, that is your God. Your brain is exactly that key component that creates everything. And people who don't understand that, well, for example, have you ever questioned yourself? What is the second voice that you speak inside of you? With who do you communicate inside when you speak? Make a decision. It's so obvious. But everybody just like doesn't question it. This second voice, that is the brain, is the most perfect, smartest computer. This computer, it allows our bodies to be here, but at the same time, it has certain limitations that you and I, we can take it off. But this is the main reason, or I'll put it like this. So, the brain is made that our body would live. When there's nothing dangerous happening, it goes into saving mode. If you don't have to waste the energy, save it. That's why we as humans were lazy. And our brain uses two main technologies, and it's called logic and emotions, to manipulate us so we won't spend the energy. And the more smarter you are, the more brain tries to play around with yourself. So yes, but about the brain, it's a whole different talk and subject. So the evolution law is the core fundament of the life game or natural selection. So the brain is like a supernatural computer. You don't have to crack its code. You don't have to. Life doesn't care. But if you decide to, that will give you the opportunity of studying life and having control over it. So, life is a free theater. You can choose which role to play, but only based through your personal development the role is obtained. So, this is a free theater. You can play here or dream about anything that you want, but you will get what you want, or you will get that role that you want to play only if you're going to have that experience, that level of development, those qualities. You can fool the society, you can fool your friends, but you cannot fool life. It knows perfectly who you are. And you will receive in this theater that role that you have chosen yourself, and that role that you have developed yourself upon. So, A little bit about the practice of the development of the consciousness. I decided for this presentation just to give you such a brief overview of the main things, and then we can already discuss. So, the measure is the core element of control. If you don't know where you are, you're not controlling yourself. If you don't know how much money is in your pocket, well, that means you don't know your finances, and etc. So, I decided to put it very simply to divide the three main paths of development of a person into three main categories. The first is called spiritual field. Spiritual development. What does it put inside? It's your IQ, your brain, your academic knowledge. It is your cultural knowledge on how you know everything what we as humans have. And it's of course science. So everything connected with intelligence, that is one part of the field of development. The second one is communication. If you cannot communicate, you cannot develop. If you want to communicate fast, you have to learn to be very communicative. Especially in our Western world. Communication includes emotional intelligence. How now so you can express yourself. How now so you can feel the people that you have around who you're speaking with. If you don't have the skill, well, trust me, you won't reach too high results in your life, even if you will be very, very good in your studies. So that's the second field. And the third one is practical. Practical is your physical development, control over your body, your health. It's an aspect of your finances, fundamental, problem solver. That you're not only knowing, it's not only about speaking, but it's like making it real. Being healthy, having that fundament to play around in this world. So if you would imagine yourself, and my small advice and suggestion is, try to imagine. So spiritual, communicational, practical. Put a scale of 10 points. 10 is maximum. And now think, in which, from these three fields, where are you? In which fields you are more developed? In which fields you are less developed? And exactly through understanding what it is, it unveils to you, actually, that life is bringing you the problems exactly by that topic that you want to develop. That actually, those where you have your weak points, that is what coincidentally life gives you. Or maybe that is the main reason why you still don't have what you want. That you're just investing your time into a field where everything is already good by you. As you know, our brain is smart. It's very hard to go a different direction. So, but now, let's have the word about the most, I would say, complicated and yet interesting aspect. The aspect of spiritual truthing. So, I will share with you the 5 very important things when the next time you will decide to try the mushrooms, LSD, or anything else. This principle is a core principle if you want to have a good trip. Good trip means a psychedelic trip that gives you the answers of the fulfillment of life. And these 5 principles are very easy to remember. First, fasting. Everybody understands fasting means not to eat. Why? The biggest amount of energy that your body consumes during the day is digesting. The more you eat, the less energy you have. Have you ever noticed that after food you want to sleep, especially if you don't know how to eat correctly? So when you don't eat, your body cleans itself, and all of this energy, it is ready to focus on what you will be doing. That's why fundamental, fast for 1 day. Second, you need to have a close friend, a person of your level of development or higher. Because when you do a spiritual journey, your energy, they unite. And the more stronger person you will have, the more higher you will go. Or I'll give you another example with alcohol. Have you noticed that you get only drunk when you're with close friends? You never get drunk if you drink alone or in a company where you don't know the people. Because your mind our psyche, by a computer, it will never allow for you to relax if you don't have those people. So having a person next to you of your high level, fundamental. 3, nature. Nature has that core element and essence. When you're doing especially a psychedelic trip and you end up in the nature, it will connect you with God, it will connect you with this one energy. All that we have as humans, everything was studied from the observation of nature. And if you will make a psychedelic trip, oh, okay, I will just ask. Guys, did anybody do some spiritual tripping in an apartment? Raise your hand. Mm-hmm. So the people. So, and then have you tried a spiritual journey in the nature? Uh-huh. So tell me, what was the difference by your experience? Which was more effective and more effective? Both.
Effective but different.
Mm-hmm.
In nature you have less comfort, so for me that was maybe the point which kind of
Mm-hmm.
made the trip a bit negative. It's the wind, for example, sun and other like different aspects they might kind of
Stubborn, you? Yes, absolutely. And this actually,
exactly the comfort somewhat.
yeah, you're exactly literally speaking already about the other thing. That nature is beautiful, but for you to enjoy it like you're enjoying your home or apartment, it's very important to create comfort. And comfort, it takes in food, music, clothing. If you're going somewhere, put something that no matter where you sit down, no matter where you end up, you would feel yourself comfortable. Because comfort, it allows your psychic again to unveil. If you won't feel the comfort and the protection, well, you won't be able to have that more stronger, deeper experience. And this is, I understand what happened. The winds were strong, it was discomforting because maybe there were people, or no?
There were people, of course.
Yeah. So, focus on the comfort. So how do I always imagine it? You wake up, empty stomach, you meet with your best friend, and then you're going to the nature. And while you're walking to the nature, you have your backpack and you have everything which you need. Some tasty food, some good music, some warm clothes, somewhere you can put a blanket and sit down. And this leads us exactly to the 5th one. When you do all of these things correctly, they will have absolutely no meaning if you won't learn and train yourself to remember and to structure it. A spiritual journey is like a dream. In the beginning, everything is obvious. You understand everything. And you're like, wow. But then you go to sleep. And the next day you wake up, and it was like a dream. It was literally like a dream, because your mind and those thoughts that you had, your neurons are not structured like that typically. When you wake up on the next day, your program goes into the typical behavior way. And that's why it's so important, no matter how lazy and you think, oh, I remember everything, I know. Structure. Remember. Because to the end of all, only that matters. No matter how far you will go and what you will experience, if you won't structure out that knowledge and the conclusions that you did in the journey.
Actually, an interesting practice is to note down your ideas.
Writing down, making recordings, making paintings, making pictures. Use anything what you possess, but try to capture that moment so that when you see that picture, you'll see that painting, you read your writings, boom. You have like a teleportation to that moment, to that part of knowledge. Everything is here, but your brain never will allow you. It doesn't want you to be smart. It doesn't want you to waste the energy on work and development. It doesn't want to work. So you have to make this, I'm sorry, no, that's a bad word. You have to make this work.
Don't call to your parents.
Why not?
And maybe such a small wrap up. Well, a story. A story about my very first spiritual journey. Would you like to hear it? Well, the first time I tried psychedelics was at the age of 19. At that moment I was a vegetarian, no meat, fish and eggs, I was straight studying the Veda books. But I met my friend, a very close spiritual brother, who was studying Kabbalah and all of those things, that part of the mystics. And then when we met, both of us from different angles got for the first time information about like mushrooms, about that ethical knowledge. We were always seeking where are the answers. And when we met the correct person that shared with us information, we understood, yes, the time has came. So, one of our friends showed where we have the magical fields here in Tallinn. We went into gathering there a couple of times. That was just epic and legendary. To the end of all, we had their strange stories without eating mushrooms. We had there like, a husky. We came like 7 o'clock in the morning just into this field in the middle of nowhere. We're just gathering mushrooms and we look with our heads and in front of us, just literally in front of us, there's a huge husky. It just stands, it has yellow eyes, it doesn't have even like a collar over the neck. We're like, well, we look around, of course there's nobody there. And this husky just starts to make such 8 circles, like running around in an 8. We greeted it, we're like, namaste. And we just continue to gather mushrooms. And you know how it appeared, so it disappeared. Like, we never noticed how it came, how it went away. And we're very imagine you're in a field and there's a dog. How you cannot notice a dog? So, but yeah. They say by Carlos Castaneda, for example, that the spirits, they communicate with you. The first level is through symbols, wind, that, and here nature. Second are animals. Animals is a certain way how the spirits might connect with you. And if you learn those symbols, you understand them. And the third level is already humans. That sometimes the spirits or certain information can stream through other people and they won't even understand it. So, with that husky, we understand. Thanks, guys. We got your blessings. So, afterwards, we fasted, and we met in the Tammsaare Park. We took some, warm water, 50 degrees. Put it 70 mushrooms here, 70 mushrooms there. Closed it, and went on to the botanic garden. So, I can tell you guys that the experience that we received, it was so profound. Because afterwards, ready right now I can tell you, I participated in peyote, muscaline, ayahuasca many times, and other rituals. Actually, all of this is absolutely uncomparable with our Estonian mushrooms. Did you know that our Estonian mushrooms are the second strongest mushrooms in the world? They're the second strongest concentrated psilocybin mushrooms in the world. And the experience, especially for us, people that are connected with this land, and especially people who are born here, they have that natural vibration, that natural flow, that when you do that, it literally, they connect you, and they guide you through all of the knowledge that our ancestors did on this land. So, the mushroom experience and journey, it was very profound, but I will just tell you the high point. I can speak about this journey for hours, but I will just give you that high point, which totally, I would say, broke my conception of life. After this, I put it into the doubt anything I studied, because I understood that life is more and more and more unlimited than we think. So, at the highest point, how do mushrooms work? You take them, about 1.5 hours they open the consciousness, about 1.5 hours you're in the top, and 1.5 hours it goes down. So the spiritual journey lasts about 4 or 5 hours. At this highest point, what was happening? Together with my friend, first of all, my brother was calling me. I was picking him on the phone. So imagine while I'm speaking, first, I see the future. He was choosing to stay in Tallinn or to go to St. Petersburg. He was thinking, what is the better path to follow? I saw as the future what will happen in Tallinn. I saw the future what will happen with him in St. Petersburg. And I was telling him like, dude, it's like do. And when I'm seeing this, I absolutely consciously make every sound of the letter. I understand consciously as every letter that I say, not automatic, full consciousness. And while I'm doing this, I visually see how my voice is decoded into the phone structure, sent to my brother, like shit far away. And while I speak, I see all of the barriers of his brain. I can choose the language if I would speak just a little bit more higher. No, his brain, one ear flies in, other flies out. I was using the most strongest impact, let's say, language that you can imagine. So while I'm doing this and speaking with him, I have my left arm. I just go like this. Happiness, like anger or fear. I have whole control over your body. You have whole control over your muscles. So for you to play the theater of any emotion, it's nothing. So I'm standing there, like telling him his future, playing around with my face, and I'm looking at the leaves of the tree. Of the leaves of the tree, I see how the water through the roots is trundling up to the tree, how it decodes in the photosynthesis and creates the green structure of the leaf. So while I'm doing this and looking this inside of my head, I also have two more realities that I'm analyzing through, like we're right now communicating. And by doing this 6 things at the same time, I have my friend, my spiritual brother, just 10 meters away from me, and he's doing his own 7 things. And we're telepathically exchanging all of the information at the same time. And when you experience this, that's it. Your understanding on who we are, what are our capabilities, what are our true reasons why we're playing here. Everything was set out in a big question. And this is, after this journey, I understood why there's even a saying. I didn't want to agree with that, but after I experienced, there's a saying that there are 2 types of people who tried mushroom psychedelics and has the experience, and who doesn't. Once you have that experience, once you broke the code of your system of the brain, you can never go back. You can only go on in your development. You will never forget what you have experienced, and you will never let go what you have discovered